Hi, good morning. In today's session, we talk about the exception part. This is the session is a continuation of a previous part. So yeah, in today's session, we talk about the what is exception, how parent-child exception works, the stack about the exception, throw versus throws, and finally versus finalize. So this is the today's content session. So yeah, out of this content, there are multiple interview questions which is multiple times asked in interviews. Okay. So yeah, you can check it out, the FAQs of this session in the description. So what is mean by exception? So exception is the abruptly close our the workflow or the abnormal behavior of our application. Suppose for example, in a 3 line you write this your code, after that you are doing 10 divided by 0 and then 3 line of code. Okay, so in this flow, if you haven't handled the exception, so till now the code is working fine, but after that 10 divided by 0, here the exception came and our program get terminated. Okay, rest of the code is not executed at this line. Okay, but if you handle the exception correctly, so till now this line your code will came. This code we handle 10 divided by 0 in a try catch block, and after that this 3 line of code. So in this code till the end program work correctly because we handled the exception correctly. Okay, that is mean by exception, and this is the example of exception. Okay, exception class is a parent of everyone. Like arithmetic exception also parent is the exception, and for array out of bound exception is also exception. But in a writing the code, suppose if you are write a try block, and in a exception first you write the catch block with the exception, and after that you write a catch block for array out of bound exception, and another one is the arithmetic exception. Okay, next catch block is a arithmetic exception. In that case what happened, let me know. Okay, so I just explain you. So in that case this is a compilation error because exception is a parent of these two, arithmetic and the array out of bound exception. So it will not work. It directly define the compile time exception. So what should ideally happen? Okay, so ideally that means our parent exception, like parent exception should came at a last. Means whenever you are writing the try code, try to make that the subchild of the exception came before than the parent exception. That means arithmetic exception and array out of bound exception should came before the exception. So correct way is you can write the catch block firstly with the arithmetic exception or the arithmetic exception or with the array out of bound exception. Like this is your catch block for arithmetic, this is a catch block for your array out of bound exception. Okay, array out of bound exception, and then lastly you need to define catch block with the exception. So this is the correct syntax of the exceptions. Okay, and this will correctly compile and run. Okay, that's about the parent child relationship. In a stack, suppose this is our main method, and in a main method p1 gets called, and from p1 n gets called. Okay, and from n m gets called, and here suppose exception is occur. So what happen if exception is not if exception is not handled? Okay, first we check out what happened with the not handled scenario. In a not handled scenario, program directly close abruptly because main to p1, main to p, p to n, and n to m. We are here, but exception is occur, so we are program get terminatedly here only. Okay, only we are just printing. Java prints the stack trace of that main to p, p to n, and m, and that exception is occur. But in a handled case, like handled case, exception handled well, that case main function pass that control to the p passes to the n passes to the m. Suppose exception is occur but it's handled very well, then again that control passes to the n to p, and p to m, and that program gets completed. Okay, that's why exception handle is a more important. Okay, next step, we are checking what is the difference between throws and the throw. So throws is, that means we are saying that this number of line of a code is a possibility to exception generate with the arithmetic exception. Okay, and that means a throws means this number of a line of a code have a possibility that arithmetic exception is, the chances are there, but I don't want to handle that exception here. I will simply pass that exception or propagate to the caller method. That is mean by throws. But in a throw exception, that means we are saying from this arithmetic exception throws from this, and the parent the code will handle, or a stack caller method will handle this exception correctly. Okay, this is the main difference between throws and a throw. Okay, throw exception means we are throwing exception from this code. Throws means this code can generate the exception, arithmetic exception, and you just simply pass to the stack or a caller method that will handle implicitly. This is a simple way. Okay, next is a finally, and finalize. Okay, so all are the final is a keyword, finally is a block, and the finalize is a method. Okay, final word where we are using at a class level we can use, or a method level use can. Any example of a final word? Yes, the basic example is a string class. String class is a finally because it won't get overridden, or the value won't get changed. That's why string class we are giving the example. Finally block, where finally block getting used. So after the try or after the catch block, finally block get added. or we are writing. And what is use of this finally block? Closing the resource. That means it's a guarantee that after certain code, this code need to execute it, whether exception is occurred or whether exception is not occurred. In the both the cases, finally block get executed. That's the mean of a finally block. And finalize block, suppose if you using or if you are doing some operation with the resources, and before the closing that resources you need to do some cleanup activity. So that is part of a finalize block. Means before the GC get called, certain operation if you want to do, that you can do in a finalize method, that get called before the object get wrapped. That is means finalize. Okay, so that's the basic difference between finally and finalize. Okay, then next step is the method overriding. Means method overriding, or you can call it exception overriding. There are two cases where parent class have the exception defined, or the parent won't have the exception. Both the cases will check. Okay, so superclass is a method and it not allowed to throw the exception. Like just for example, class A is here, and we are writing public void ABC method. Okay, this ABC method, okay, and class B extends A, and here also we are writing public void ABC. Okay, and this method implementation. Okay, this is the basic this is mean by overriding, because there are two definition of ABC. Always the latest implementation get called, that is the overriding. If you know more details about the overriding, let me know, I will create a differentiation, but this is the overriding. Okay, so in a superclass, suppose this is a method, and there are two cases. One is this ABC method not throwing exception, and ABC method is throwing the exception. These are the two cases, and there are some rules to the exception overriding. Suppose ABC method is not throwing any exception. That means in this subclass, the unchecked exception can throw. Like unchecked exception means null pointer exception, or the arithmetic exception, or the number format exception. That kind of exception this ABC can throw. Okay, rest of the thing is not allowed. Means that break the overriding concept. Okay, and suppose the ABC method, this ABC method is throwing the exception. In that case, what things are allowed? Okay, that means suppose this ABC, we is sending arithmetic exception. Okay, arithmetic exception is throwing by ABC. In that case, unchecked exception is allowed. That means null pointer exception or the number format exception are allowed. Same exception like arithmetic exception is allowed. Can ignore the exception means no exception is also fine, or a sub exception means suppose arithmetic exception have some arithmetic ABC exception, so it is a subclass of arithmetic. So arithmetic ABC also allowed in a child class. Okay, that's are the rules of the exception overriding. Okay, yeah, that's it for today's session. Let me know if you want to more details here. Bye.